In this video, you will see how I made this knife out of an old saw blade. This is the very first knife I made, and I'm happy I documented it for you guys to see and learn like I did. Let's jump right in. I printed out 3 templates I found online of knives that I liked in hopes that I would build 3 knives. After building the first one, I realized quickly how difficult it was, and so far I've only made 1 knife. So the idea behind this project was just to get a basic knife built. I wasn't looking to build the fanciest knife or one with fancy material, and I had a spare saw blade laying around. And after seeing someone make a knife from a saw blade, I figured I'd give it a shot. Like I mentioned in the intro, I am not a professional knife builder, and this is actually the very first knife that I built. I don't have specialty knife building equipment, so you'll see some very primitive tools to build this knife. And you can obviously tell in the end product, it's not a $500 custom knife. This is a very cheap knife that I'll probably just use around the shop. Because the material of the saw blade was tougher than the metal cutting bandsaw blade that I had to use an abrasive cutoff wheel to cut out the basic shape of the knife. After getting a rough cutout of the knife using the cutoff wheel, I used a combination of the disc sander, the belt sander, files, and a grinder to get the knife down to its final shape. I'll let the video play through as you see me working on the material, as it's pretty self-explanatory, and then I'll get into some more detail after. The belt sander I'm using here is a Harbor Freight 1x30 unit, and I will say that I'm fairly happy with the tool when I use it for everything but knife making. This is probably where I would have benefited from a nice 2x72 belt sander that tracked evenly and frankly had more power. This was just a really frustrating tool to try to get a precise edge set on a knife. As I mentioned before, the blade material is actually harder than your typical mild steel. Hence why I had to use a 3/16 cobalt drill bit to actually drill a hole through this. I didn't show previous failed attempts of just using a normal titanium tipped DeWalt bit. but I certainly burned through a couple before I bit the bullet and just bought a cobalt bit. The cobalt bit runs about $5 on Amazon. I'll link below. My favorite part of this project was making the handle for this knife out of this material called leopard wood. Believe it or not, I started building this knife because I saw the wood at the store and thought to myself how nice this material would look on a knife handle. I didn't have a knife, so I decided I'd make one. Being that I had not the slightest idea of how to make a knife, I started looking on YouTube and found a lot of guys that did tutorials and just really got into it. I'll link some of my favorite videos below, but I will say there are many different ways of making a knife and processes on how to actually attach a handle to the knife. Like I said, I'm going to link a few of the videos that inspired me below, but I did come to a conclusion that you can do this many different ways, and you'll see how I did it. One of the other debated topics on YouTube is the use of epoxy and whether you use 5-minute epoxy or 1-hour epoxy. Here in this video, I'm using 2-ton epoxy, 2500 psi strength, which is also 1-hour epoxy from DevCon. I believe, per my research, this was the best option for what I was going to use the knife for. Similar to earlier, the next few scenes here are just going to be shaping of the knife handle, and so I'll let this play through. Now the finish I put on the leopard wood handle is 2 parts. First part is a do-it-yourself wipe-on polyurethane with polyurethane and mineral spirits mixed together for a thin coat to begin the sealing of the wood. Then the second part is a spray-on spar polyurethane. I've just used spray when I want a nice, clean, smooth finish. And here's the final product. I will say I grossly underestimated how difficult building this knife would be, and to be honest with you, I'm not quite pleased with the results. I do need to find a better way to sharpen the knife, and I've already seen some methods that I think I'm going to try. But overall, it was a great experience to build this knife, and really to build a custom handle for the knife, which I'm again more excited about than the knife itself. But I do plan on getting the knife sharpened, and I do hope that you learned something from this video and that this video inspired you to build something. If you like this video, please click the like button and consider subscribing. I'll see you on the next project.